Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast for the Queen stage of the Giro d'Italia, stage 15 from Minerva del Garda to Livigno. This episode is brought to you by Pillar Performance, one of the world's leading sports micronutrition companies. And this is a hectic stage that the riders need to recover from tomorrow. 222 kilometers long. We rarely see a high mountain stage this long in Grand Tours anymore, certainly not in the Vuelta, that's for sure. But in the Giro, they've also sort of gone away. But here's one back, 5,700 meters of climbing, more or less. Two climbs at the start that don't even, they look like little pimples on the profile. But one's 7.5K is 4.5%. Then the category 2 di Zanzeno, 14K, 6.5%. A 60K, by the way, these valleys, horrific. These are some of the nastiest valleys. Some of the stages look pretty to ride in. I never want to ride alone on these valleys. They look terrible to ride in because they look flat on the profile. I'm telling you, these guys were going uphill. All in these up, like to the base of the Passo del Mortirolo. 12.6K, 7.7%, the quote-unquote easy side. They also descended the not the steeper side. Then another horrible valley where they're all pushing just hard on the pedals the whole time. Before the Passo di Foscagno, 14.6K, 6.3%. None of this is actually severe, and that final long climb is, under 7%. But then there's a descent, and then they do the Motolino to Livigno climb to 2,400 meters, 4.6K, 7.5%. Last 2K is really, really steep, like 12% average. So hard finish, high altitude. Last 16Ks of this stage were over 1,800 meters. So we go up high. But what did you think of the design, Benji? Did you think, I sort of thought a break had a good chance today just because of that middle valley, if they had a nice advantage by then?
Yeah, I think so as well. I looked at this parkour, and it's also the chances of the breakaway depend on how you'd expect to have a team control it. And that depends on the strength of that team, but also on the cooperation in the breakaway. And something we've seen in the last few stages and the last week of this Giro is that we tend to have very large breakaways, which tends to be bad for the cooperation in those breakaways. So that's one of the things I still need to remember every now and then when I'm like talking about previews for these kind of stages, that's an aspect that I sometimes don't consider, if that makes sense, because we think, okay, rider's going to be in the breakaway, they're probably going to cooperate because they want the stage, right? And then you look at the peloton and you're like, if a break cooperates, then it's going to be difficult for a team like UAE to maybe control that for 222 kilometers. And we'll see if that happened in this stage or not. But looking at the parkour, you said it, the first 25 kilometers relatively flat. you also mentioned that they're not exactly super flat, but the start of this stage was really weird. Because usually there's a neutral zone. The riders ride through the neutral zone behind the red car, and they can only pass the red car and start attack. Well, not really pass the red car. They can only go off on their adventure in the breakaway once they reach the actual official start. So we get to the official start, and everybody stops. The car tells everyone to stop, and some riders go to the car and are like, what's happening? And I don't know what happened, but once it restarts in a way where the first riders are the riders that wanted to go in the breakaway on that flat segment before the first climb anyway, so they just ride off, and then there's kind of a blockage of UAE riders who are like, well, we're okay with that breakaway. So we've got a half ruler with a few riders that can maybe climb in there.
Nah, none of them can climb.
Velasco can climb a little, come on.
Yeah, you got a hilly rider.
Yeah, okay.
Don't you reckon this weird start influences the whole stage? To quote our great colleague, the butterfly effect. Like, because I think a lot of the climbers got caught out by it because there were sprinters on the first row, and then just got blocked up straight away because they started from a standstill. So you don't have any rolling momentum. If you're at the back, if you're even 5 rows deep, normally a climber will sit 5-7 rows deep, and then you can move through. You can't if everyone's unclipped and there's already sprinters, Van Leeuwen or whoever, Ewan sprinting. And I think if the real guys, this wasn't the real breakaway. This was sprinters trying to get a free 3 minutes. Never was the real breakaway, except for Carmajan. I'll get to him in a second. If the real guys get in the break here and then it gets blocked up and UAE already have to start chasing, the break suddenly gets another minute, 2 minutes, I think, which would have been pivotal at the end of the stage.
Ooh, I think it depends because...
Oh, then UAE start earlier.
Then on one end, UAE start maybe earlier, but also these guys got a free amount of time. So maybe it depends on the situation. I think I low-key agree with you, is what I would say. But going through the riders in this group, there's about 8 riders, if I can count correctly. Simone Velasco from Astana, Harrison Wood for Cofidis, they'll be important in a second. Lawrence Piffy for Groupama together with Louis Aski and Olivier Legac. So they brought half their team in the breakaway at this point. Calmejean for Intermarché. He's going to be relevant in a second as well. Bert van Leerbergen and Caleb Ewan. And I do like these Bert van Leerbergens and Caleb Ewans going in the breakaway because, let's be real, this stage is, despite the fact that the Giro has very wide time limits compared to the Tour de France, these are the kind of stages they do have to watch out with 5,600, 700 altitude meters. So going in the breakaway, getting that bit of a gap, it's not free, but it's some advantage that they have to put a bit less effort maybe into, that eventually it pays off and they're ahead of the peloton once they hit the climb. So they're not going to be dropping from the peloton on the first climb of the day. So I think this is a good advantage towards trying to not be OTL and trying to not suffer all day in that sense. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's just like, let's get ahead. Maybe they'll chill. They won't ride hard because they know we can't climb. So happy days. If we get to that valley after San Zeno, we'll really be in nice shape for an easy stage and not having to push in the Gruppetto, I think. But yeah, maybe Groves wanted sprint points. Like, I don't even think he was in there at that point. Can't remember. But Cofidis panic. So there's Calmejean in the breakaway. We've got a Cat 3 and a Cat 2 coming up, Lodrino and San Zeno. Cofidis panic, and they put their rouleurs and their sprinter, in fact, Anielkovsky on the front for Simon Geschke, who's in the blue jersey, and he's going for that Maglia Azzurra.
The gap is 1 minute 30, and that's why they're panicking, right? Because they're thinking, okay, this breakaway is going to ride off and take the points from Geschke. But there's one guy in the breakaway that wasn't too happy about Cofidis.
Wait, was that... I couldn't understand what your man was mad. He was mad at everybody. So could you run me through who Calmejean was mad at in order? So,
first of all, Calmejean was complaining to Harrison Wood because Harrison Wood is on Cofidis and Cofidis was riding behind the breakaway that Calmejean is in. So that's number one. He was like shouting at him. Number two, Calmejean was shouting angrily towards the Astana car. He wasn't angry at the Astana car, but he was shouting, "They are stupid, Cofidis." So that's number two. And three, then he was shouting at his own team car. And this one I can't truly figure out because he said something along the lines of, I won't go for points if they stop pacing. And I won't go for points if the KOM points, I'm thinking. Then if they stop pacing, he won't go for points because he thinks he can go for the stage, or that's the only thing I can think about. And that's the first three characters he's angry at. But we'll get to the other stuff later. Let's first talk about, this is a high kilojoule stage, but what can improve your recovery after stages like this?
Oh, the Pillar Performance Micronutrition. I mean, I've not been doing 5,700 meter Denevel. I mean, I've been warming up. I've been getting there step by step. Yeah. In fact, I don't think I should be doing this. I won't be able to recover from this. I'd need more than a rest day after this sort of stage. But Pillar Performance, it's not about just carbohydrates and hydration. They'll take you through to the finish line. Pillar's mission is to get athletes to the start line in the best condition over and over again, and not just the start line of your races or events you're targeting, but just the training you might be doing week to week. And that's, for me, especially, I'm on a 3 days on, 1 day off schedule at the moment. I had a rest day today because I had to watch this whole stage today, so I couldn't go out riding. The storm coming as well, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. But tomorrow I've got a rest day, and that's why I've been taking Pillar's triple magnesium product for the last, I think 2 months now, and it's been a game changer for my sleep and particularly my recovery. I did some hard intervals actually on the legs in the mountains with Toby, steep stuff, and I get really, really sore the next day, and my legs actually weren't too bad at all. I was able to back it up with some VO2 max intervals the next day on the trainer. I take it in the morning and in the evening before bed. So if you'd like to try Pillar today, and it's not just the triple magnesium products that they have on offer, it's a whole suite of micronutrition products, head to pillarperformance.shop, or for North American listeners, head to thefeed.com/pillar and enter code ROUGE, all capitals. That's ROUGE for 15% off. That's Rouge for 15% off all first-time purchases. And thanks to them for sponsoring this episode of our Giro coverage, and indeed the Queen stage. But yeah, Parmesan Benji, I don't think he earned too many friends today. And because he wasn't pulling in the break either, he stopped pulling, and I think everyone got sick of his whinging.
Isn't he also the guy that stage 1 was already like using using Gebre to then attack Gebre afterwards? He doesn't have the best track record. I've got a feeling a lot of people in the peloton don't exactly like him very much. So that breakaway is up the road. So 8 riders up the road. And with Cofidis spacing behind, the gap has actually expanded from 1:30 to 3 minutes before that climb starts, before the Lodrino climb starts. And at 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, I still believe this is not the ultimate breakaway. And that is indeed the case, because that first breakaway, they were all deceived because another breakaway was made. We've got Geschke launching from that Cofidis train directly from the foot of the Lodrino climb. Multiple large groups basically form behind group 1, and it's that typical breakaway action we've spoken about multiple times already on the podcast this Giro. You've got that neutral, that first breakaway up the road, and all the rest is trying to jump towards it, and UAE has to try and figure out who's in those groups, but seemingly they did a good job there, because there was no real danger in those groups. The only rider reported to be in there that was close in GC was Rubio, but that was wrongly reported, so no one was close in GC in these breakaways. And how large was it? Was it 40 riders? I'm talking that first breakaway, then 2 riders from Ineos, 2 riders from that team, 3 riders from that team. Like, it's a lot of riders, right?
Yeah, it was huge. It was like, is the breakaway bigger than the peloton? Who's in here? Is someone slipping in? Is Hit in here? Like, is there going to be a problem? Will Bahrain start pacing? In fact, despite the size of that group, Benji, there was no one even of... Well, no, stories of remotely relevant GC significance, but not serious GC. Like, no one that could be moving from 8th to 4th, for example. Like Simon Yates in Col de la Loze last year moved from 6th or 7th to 4th after that stage. There's none of that. So I was somewhat surprised. It's also, I noticed, like, Geschke, it's like when you want something too much, it then means you're never going to get it. Like, because he wants it so much, everyone sits on him on these KOM sprints. No, like, I feel like Geschke, even making the break, he's like, I have to make the break.
Yeah.
And then everyone follows him in. And he's in really good shape. Like, credit to him. But it's just...
And it's backfired before, eh? Tour de France 2022.
Yep.
Very similar scenarios.
A few points. And then that makes it worse. Because then he's like, he knows what can happen when these GC guys start moving.
But also, how realistic was it to begin with for Geschke to win KOM at the start of this Giro?
It really depends on what Pogacar wanted to do in this last week of stages.
Yeah, fair.
And today we had that answer. So we'll look at the numbers in a second. But yeah, 46-man group. Should I run through some of the people, Benji?
Yes, the most important people. Don't do all of them, please.
We have like the whole of the Polti team going for Piganzoli. We've got whole of Bardiani for, let's say, Pellizzari. Alaphilippe. There's 2 Movistars helping Quintana. Steinhauser's there with Cepeda. APP and Touze are there, as well as Schachmann and Koch. And Conchi for Alpecin was good. And then 2 Ineos, Benji. And other people going for the stage, Valter, Tratnik, and Stora. Stora also kind of go for GC. But 2 Ineos, what do you think? You think they were satellite riders still going for the stage? It was Foss and Narvaez.
Well, Foss and Narvaez being in the breakaway could be both. They could both try to go for the breakaway. I don't see their chances being very high in this group. Then again, Narvaez is South American, so by the logic, he should be better on high altitude. But then again, his long climbing hasn't been something to shout about necessarily. And Foz, I have doubts when it comes to climbing in general. So I wasn't expecting much from both when it comes to the stage win. And then in addition to that, when it comes to satellite rider, I do see the value of those riders potentially being satellite riders. But how valuable is a satellite rider? It depends on your strategy. It depends on whether you're planning something, planning to attack somewhere, planning to do something from the breakaway formation, the fact that Narvaez and Vos are in this breakaway, and I didn't see Arensman move at any point in this breakaway formation phase, then I'm thinking, okay, there were two things Ineos could have done today to make the stage harder if their strategy is to still try to beat Pogacar and not, oh, we're going for the podium. And those two strategies could be, we're going to try and send Arensman in the breakaway and try and do something that way, try and put some pressure that way. On the other hand, they can hard pace the climbs, the climbing segments on the stage. We've mentioned this before, like how Visma did it in the Tour de France the last 2 years, because that then, as a result, makes the stage higher energy expenditure for everybody, including Pogacar. And the logic behind that is the thought process of, okay, we think Thomas might be better after a very hard stage than Pogacar might be. But that's also an if, because last year, for example, at the Tour de France, there were multiple stages that Visma hard paced before we got to that one that eventually led to Pogacar falling through the ice in Côte de la Loze. And the year before, there were also hard stages in advance of the Granon stage. And then on the Granon stage, the stage itself was super hard. And I was wondering whether Ineos could even make it that hard. So what was your thought process on this Ineos breakaway?
Oh, I was jealous of Ineos team here if I wanted to make a race hard.
Okay.
They got the climbing rouleurs they have here.
Yeah, but...
And look at these gradients. Look at the gradients of these climbs. 6 to 7%. We're not talking 9%. We're not talking the real Mortarolo. These rouleurs they have can pull hard.
Yep.
And so I basically knew what was going to happen on this stage immediately on Colle di San Zeno. Because, Aronson didn't jump. I think Vos was Narvaez were there. I don't know why. Maybe to go for the stage, I think, actually. And, if you don't pace the first 30-minute climb, then you know what's going to... and don't pace Mortarolo later, then Poggy will just win easily.
But
that's guaranteed.
Two things in addition to that is, one, yesterday might have also been a sign. Like you mentioned it yesterday, and I think I might have switched my opinion a little bit. As in, Sheffield going for the stage yesterday, I don't really have an issue with it because he actually has a chance of winning a time trial like that. Then again, Ghana's the favorite for that, so maybe then you don't need to do that. But him crashing definitely hinders their qualities when it comes to making the stage harder.
Yeah, he was no good today.
That's one thing. But on the other hand, I'm also thinking, before the stage, to be honest, Ineos starts the stage with 4 minutes behind on Pogacar. Pogacar is not their direct competition anymore in my face. Like, in my head. For me, it is...
making the stage hard is good for G anyway, no?
We can get to that in a second, but first of all, if Ineos end this race with G finishing second and Arensman being top 5 plus the white jersey plus 2 stage wins, that is a perfect Giro d'Italia for me.
And
for Ineos.
Yeah, good. Maybe not perfect. Perfect win. Probably well above expectations.
Yes.
Giro d'Italia.
The second aspect of it is, I have no clue what I was going to say, so you can go ahead.
Well, maybe the second aspect was that, I thought the reason I thought they might have paced today was actually if you pretend Pog doesn't exist, it's still the best thing to do to see if there's a problem with Tiberi, to see if there's a problem with O'Connor. Because G is really consistent and he eats up these long, hard stages, and these climbs are good for him. As I said, they're not, apart from the last 2Ks, they're 6 to 7%. It's not that bad. It's just long, hard. He's got 1 million Ks probably in the legs from riding. He's been at altitude 1 million times the last decade. He's good at altitude. He's good on Granon. I don't know. I thought it was actually quite disappointing, but to not, because like you have comms saying, "Oh, look at Filippo Ganna, Benji. Look how what a ride from Filippo Ganna." Okay,
you don't do anything with it.
Okay, like he's just sitting there following for 3 weeks. Okay, like great, like congrats. It didn't help anything.
There's two sides to this. Yes, we're going very off topic when it comes to the stage, but I think it's a very valuable discussion. First of all, I do want to say, if you do want to fight for that podium and you do want to put that strategy that you're mentioning for the podium, then you're not looking at Pogacar and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to make the race hard for Martinez and O'Connor. And you arrive at the foot of Mortirolo where today, spoilers, Lengen ends up doing the tempo on the Mortirolo the entire climb. Sorry, but Lengen's a fucking good rider in this race, but his tempo on the Mortirolo is not going to put the herd into your competition in any way. So that is the moment for me. Not necessarily San Zeno against Martinez and O'Connor, but from Mortirolo onwards, when it's Lengen that's making the tempo, that's where for me the switch at Ineos should have been, okay, we can make something out of this. We can make some pressure on the riders around us, because on one end, yes, Ineos has ridden aggressively for stages. Ganna attacking on the Capo Melee, Narvaez attacking on that other sprint stage, stage 1, allowing Narvaez to go for that stage win and not necessarily waiting on Thomas, who was dropped by Pogacar. Those kind of aspects, that's riding aggressive for stage wins. When it comes to GC, I'd argue they've been riding rather passively, because the only 2 moments where they did anything that could have led to any pressure in GC is stage 1, where we saw a 3-second attack from Thomas trying to attack Pogacar at an intermediate sprint when Scaroni went off the front. And that's a small thing. And the second one is maybe yesterday's echelons. And outside of that, I don't see anything in this race when it comes to offensive riding by Ineos, according to what they promised they would do before the race started. But at this point, at the moment where they started today's stage on, which was 4 minutes behind Pogacar, I can't blame that they didn't do anything against Pogacar today, but I agree that there would have been perhaps better strategies to put time or not lose time, depending on what happens at the end of the stage, but to challenge Martinez and O'Connor more today.
Yeah, I think so. But anyway, it didn't happen. And so this break form, it didn't happen. And you can say, well, look at, anyway. G dropped Pogacar less than 2 years ago on a high altitude stage. That's a fact. Yep. He dropped him 2 years ago. And people keep saying, we wait till Pogacar has a bad day. You'll wait forever. Okay, you have to make it happen. He doesn't just have a bad day. If you walk up to the base of a 35-minute climb, even if it's to high altitude, he's going to fucking kill you. Yeah. So, anyway, enough on that. The break is huge. There becomes but so big that people are skipping. Conchi looks very good. I think Polti Cometa basically have their whole team in the breakaway doing a TTT at one point. And I can't even remember what happened in the valley. There's like Fuga de la Fugas. No one's cooperating. It's all a mess. Like Wood is ahead for Cofidis whilst Geschke's behind. So I don't think they figured that out perfectly in the valley before Mortirolo. Bjerg is pacing and Langen was pacing in the valleys before Mortirolo. Interesting they used Bjerg first. I don't think he felt as good as, say, Langen today. And then Mortirolo, Benji. The good climbers.
Wait.
Oh, the other stuff happened?
Did we forget about the Calmejean being angry at Piffy part?
Oh, I guess I thought you said you ran through all of Calmejean being angry at people.
I ran through his first event. We haven't spoken about these.
That's the greatest thing I ever... Lawrence, oh my God, it was so good. It was the funniest thing I ever seen.
I love Lawrence Piffy after today's stage. Basically, on the first climb today, we're doing this one out of order, guys. I'm sorry. But on the first climb today, the breakaway came to the top. Calmejean went for it, and Piffy just sprinted out of his wheel. Calmejean like, what the fuck, dude?
I think it was because he was whinging so much.
Piffy has nothing to gain doing that.
He was pissed. Yeah.
I loved it. Because Calmejean's been complaining all stage. He's complaining on Twitter all the time, on Strava. Did you see when someone said something on Strava against him and he started like insulting one of his fans in the comments and then eventually said sorry?
No, so, the fan was like, is it normal to do like a harder ride on a rest day? And he just abused him, no?
Yeah.
The fan was just asking a question about training.
Yeah. Then again, I might be biased against him because he blocked me on Twitter. So I'm unfortunate.
He's not got many friends.
I'm a victim of the Calmejean hatred as well. But
maybe that's why Piffy took the points away. It was very, very funny.
Thank you, Lawrence. I appreciate it.
We get to the Mortirolo. Polti begin pacing. Tonelli's pacing that group 2 with Bayer and Scaroni, but they're not really going anywhere. Scaroni's the best of them, and Pellizzari in that group. There's literally like 20 Italians in this breakaway, by the way. It's ridiculous. half of Italy's young men are in the breakaway. And Bjerg's pacing in the peloton, and the gap's not really moving too much. UAE never let it go to... It got to 5 minutes, I think. but they never let it get 7 or 8. And Bjerg starts to bring it down a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah,
and it's... Yeah, and he kind of pulls off, and then, as you said, Benji, it's Vergaard, Staker, Langen pacing on the peloton early on the Mortarolo.
I do need to credit the way UAE wrote this, because first of all, Bjerg riding on the second kilometer today, San Zeno, was at first a surprise for me. Then I think about yesterday, he went pretty all out in the time trial yesterday, which I don't think he should have personally. I think he shouldn't have been going all out in the time trial. Visma would never let a Bjerg type character do that, and he would have saved energy for today, but maybe it doesn't matter in the end. But on San Zeno, he does the pacing at a tempo that is relatively slow, that allows Oliveira and Molano to get over the climb to do the valley, which that's one thing. But then you said it as well, he also rides before Langen, which that really shows that yesterday had an effect, right? How do you see, do you think Bjerg should have gone all out yesterday?
I think Berg's just inconsistent.
Oh, okay.
Some days he's good, some days he's bad.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think there's also an element of he goes first to tell Pogacar how the course is. And so they have his data for Pogacar because he's like their TT specialist.
Yeah, that's fair.
Maybe they want that. I don't know. And there's UCI points as well, Benji, to think of.
Bruh, they're not doing that for UCI points in a TT. Nah. I don't agree with that. They're 17k ahead in points.
Okay, so why are they doing fucking the Timbuktu championships with Ulysses? Yeah. Do they know that?
That is the reason they can afford to not do that on the time trials and Grand Tours, in my opinion. That's why they're miles ahead.
Okay. Anyway, they're pacing with Lange, and as Benji said, you're thinking Ineos, they got 5 guys or whatever. You're like, oh, is Gunnar going to set a harder pace? Langen does set a decent pace, but also G2 and the breakaway is just messing around. Eventually, the better climbers actually step away. It had to happen eventually. We're talking Narvaez, Conchi, Geschke, Steinhauser, Quintana, Alaphilippe, Piganzoli, Valter, Stora, Kovali or Pellizzari. Sorry, Pellizzari was ahead with Scaroni. Conchi goes across to them, actually attacks, but he actually almost goes too hard. Conchi was very, very good today. I think a bit too aggressive, actually, in moments. And but eventually those climbers all get there, but then they get down to the valley. We've got this long uphill valley, 30 Ks or so before the Foscagno climb starts. And they basically wait for their tug buddies to come back. Sanchez, Gabir and Juanpe, whoever it was, Baggioli, Mauri and Alaphilippe. And so they tried to Fuga de la Fuga a little bit. The gap's like 330. Yeah. Maybe, no, and then Novak, he started to set a real pace, Benji, and he brought it down quite a lot in the last 4Ks of Mortarolo. But then also when UAE get to the valley, they stop. And Novak stops, and they let Langen come back to do the valley again.
Yeah, it's UAE really planned well during the stage, played with their domestiques well. They knew where everybody was. They played everybody perfectly. They knew what their capabilities would be. Can this rider get over the climb? Can this rider come back after the climb and still pace? And honestly, this was one of the most perfect stages I've seen UAE ride from a GC rider perspective that also wants to try and win the stage kind of vibe. If that,
they did it perfectly. Sentence. They did it perfectly the way they rode.
I do also have to give credit to 2 other teams. Like you said, half of the Italians were in the breakaway, but if it wasn't for Polti smashing the fuck out of the second group and for Tonelli to ride like crazy for Pellizzari when that Fuga de la Fuga was up the road earlier, before we get to the final 30 kilometers, these groups wouldn't exist anymore.
The cooperation was horrendous. It was like every breakaway this Giro is just not wanted to win. They all played so much games.
Except those 2 teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, they use their domestiques, the 2 Italian teams, properly. They like fully, even the teams like Sanchez is there and Movistar, he pulls a bit, but he doesn't pull all out on the front to keep the gap for Nairo. Like they don't even, or Mauri doesn't pull all out for Alaphilippe. Even teams with teammates don't do it. Stork did for Stora, but he dropped a bit earlier on Mortarolo. Anyway, I do
think that we had a lot of funny moments in this race, like Ganna spitting on Thomas when he was riding. That was a
Jeez.
funny thing. Then next to that, also Holsemo and Pogacar throwing gloves at a Slovenian fan. Kalmajan being angry. I do think we should ask the riders to like spread this out more, right? Because we've got so much to talk about today, but do that on a sprint stage. And we can deep dive into these moments. But like you say, we arrive at the final climb. Well, the second final climb, Passo di Foscagno before Motolino.
The
And
last long
I'll let
climb.
you go ahead here.
So there's been no Fuga actually at this point. They've all stayed together, probably because there is pressure coming from UAE behind. The gap's like 330 or so. It's come down a little bit. And then Steinhauser attacks, very strong attack too. I thought it was like, oh, he's using it too much. Conchi and Stora are pulling, and Stora's going for his own GC because he's on 911. And Conchi just couldn't feel the chain today. Conchi was, and then Quintana sitting in. I was like, guys, you got to know what this guy's doing. Quintana's playing you. He's playing all of you. And he was. Now, maybe he could have used Paleo a bit before, but basically, Conchi, Stora pull after Steinhauser. Walter attacks. He looks very, very strong. Again, Conchi, Stora, they bring Walter back. Boom. Quintana goes, and he's moving. First, immediately, when you see the moto in front of him, you can't see it through the bends. The chase group anymore behind him in the same shot. And he's coming across the Steinhauser really quickly, who was in. Yeah, he was also the second strongest by far in the breakaway. The gap between Steinhauser and the next best in the breakaway is like 2 minutes. So he was very, very strong. But Quintana's moving, and then Benji, UAE. Novak brings it down to like 330. Großschartner then starts pulling though.
Earlier.
And also not hard enough. Großschartner cannot pull quicker than Steinhauser and Quintana. Yeah. And so if you let that situation continue, well, okay, Poggy's great, but the gap is 3 minutes, and these guys are not scrubs up the road. Quintana too at high altitude. And so it got to a situation where I think Poggy would have been happy winning this in a sprint today. I don't think the plan was to, well, maybe not a sprint, but I don't think the plan was to attack that early. But I think the reality was that Großschartner was not moving the gap, and so they had to put Micah early to up the pace on Foscagno. Otherwise, he would never catch the breakaway because they're going for the stage, obviously. That's how I see it. I think if it was Micah doing a lead out in the last 2Ks of Foscagno, that would have suited him just fine too.
That's very possible, and that's also, like, we expected a large breakaway to be up the road today, and it's logical that it's relatively hard for UAE to control a large breakaway on a 222-kilometer stage. So I see what you mean. I don't know if that was the reason that we saw Micah take over after like 4 kilometers of Großschartner pacing. So 21 kilometers to go was when Großschartner took over. 17 kilometers roughly to go was when Micah took over. So that's one possibility. You're probably right on that. But when Micah took over, at first I thought, okay, this is going kind of fast. But then it seems like his tempo regulated a bit. Like
he does it in 2 parts. Did he do this on a roper, Benji?
Jesus Christ.
He goes hard 2 minutes, stops.
2 weeks ago.
And then he talks to Poggy, and then Poggy gives the order, and then he goes hard again.
Yeah, that's a possibility. And also, if you think about it, it's kind of logical, because on one end, you can at first see if your first boost exposes anyone before you regulate your tempo. And then on the last one, you already low-key know who might be dropping if you make that final attack. So I like the idea of that, but it's also only the case because Micah is able to do that kind of performance. Micah has been outstanding this Giro, and I read that I think from Benson from GCN that they're looking into extending Micah. I think that's a very good decision. This man is invaluable for the team right now, in my opinion. One of the best domestiques they have. And I was thinking, okay, if Micah's at the front with 17K to go, we're almost ready for the Pogacar launch. And then I realized we haven't seen anything from anyone else. This entire stage, UAE has been dictating how the stage is ridden. We're going to put Lengen at the front. We're going to have him slow pace so that he can get over this climb. Not at a single moment did any competition, any other team, whether it's Ineos, whether it's Bora, whether it's Decathlon, even when they're not thinking about Pogacar, when they're thinking about trying to beat up the other podium competitors, no one interrupted what UAE was doing in dictating the stage. And at that point, I thought, okay, there's only there's only two possible winners on the stage. It's either Pogacar or Nairoman, who you seem to have picked in the early Giro preview, by the way, for this stage.
I think I picked him for every non-sprint stage. So, but yeah, I did pick. I saw the elevation for the last 15Ks of this stage. I was like, give me someone from South America. I'll take Cepeda or Nairoman. I like Nairoman for it more. And yeah, he goes past Steinhauser and he's moving. Like he's gone. Quintana's actually moving on this climb at a good pace. It's not just a formality that Poggy will jump out and close that gap to him either. But Michael leads up Pogacar, and they just take care of business. Pogacar steps off everybody. Aronsman can't respond. He was ahead of G in the order. Okay. Usually, actually, what you should have. Okay, it doesn't matter here. It doesn't matter. I accept that. I'm just saying
But say it.
Tactics-wise, you actually should have your GC contender on the wheel of the guy who will attack. Because then the domestic will always drop the wheel. Then you're fucked. Then you're closing 3 bike lengths. Right. But it doesn't matter. Danny Martinez, Benji, goes for glory.
You got a dog in him.
Yeah, he jumps out trying to get to the wheel of Pogacar. Eventually, Shas Patats. Eventually, the camera shows nobody behind him. There's no time gaps, but we know from Catalunya that, it's already over 30 seconds very quickly. Yeah. VPP, Valentin goes on the front for O'Connor. Starts pulling. Martinez gets brought back into the fold. I wonder what he could have done on Motolino without that burst, actually. Maybe it made no difference. But, yeah, and that's what happens. Poggy rides away. He doesn't catch Quintana on Foscagno. He goes past Steinhauser. He's about, I think, Benji, 40 seconds behind Quintana at the crest of Foscagno. And then Quintana does a threat of death descent towards the Motolino. Very similar finish almost to Col de la Loza, where there was a quick technical descent.
Yeah.
And then a steep ramp finish. Quintana's going really well. There's Colombian fans there. 2,350 meters, but Pogacar is stomping. And he just rides past Quintana easily. He does that class climb, which was like 7-minute climb, maybe? No, longer than that. Well, the steep bit maybe was, 10 minutes, 11, 12 minutes. He does it like a minute quicker than Quintana, I think.
And next to that, Quintana actually rode Foscagno, I'm pretty sure, in a similar time as the group with Thomas and so forth.
Yeah, like, he was good.
He was on point today. And then we get to that final climb, and the fact that Pogacar was on that final Motolino climb with a gap of 2 minutes, 2 minutes and a half already, instant gap. He exploded, the gap exploded that he made on the group with Thomas and Martinez and so forth. Is that more related to how good he was? Or I believe it's a combination. I believe it's both. He was super good compared to the others, which is a level difference you'd expect. But also, I had some kind of Tenia vibes. Kind of the...
Oh, definitely.
Group 2, the chasing group with Thomas definitely didn't push as hard as they could.
The first minute, it's all the level difference.
Yeah.
And then it gets to the first minute, and then the proof is, when they get to the final climb, are the GC other contenders, are they able to attack each other?
Yeah.
Because if everyone's riding absolutely at threshold, then they can't start attacking each other.
Yeah.
But no, okay, but how much it is impossible to judge, but for sure they eventually are like, well, fuck, what's 1 minute, what's 2 minutes, what's 3 minutes? And it goes to 3 minutes. So clearly the best iconic performance, dances away not just from his GC competitors, also catches the breakaway, and Quintana on a good day and up to the clouds on the steep ramps of Motolino. Pogacar wins the Queen stage of Il Giro d'Italia. And that'd be a big win for him in the full pink. In the full pink, fantastic team performance. They didn't put a foot wrong. UA team members, they controlled the whole stage, all 6 hours of it. And and he played it to perfection, and he was even had time, I think, to enjoy it in the last 2 to 3 minutes, I think, even on the steep ramps. Quintana second on 29 seconds. Back in the GC group on Foscagno, we saw Bardet attack. We saw, and he got a bit of a gap, but then Aronsman started pacing. Tuberi drops. He loses some time. O'Connor was dropping on Motolino and eventually came back. Aronsman still pacing on Motolino. Martinez attacks Thomas. Thomas sort of attacks him, and it reminded me actually of Roglic and Thomas attacking each other on Cecchini a bit, where Thomas goes, then gets countered, but he holds on to Martinez. They finish on the same time, 3 seconds behind Bardet, which is 250 behind Pogacar. Rubio had attacked and got caught. He loses 8 seconds along with O'Connor to Martinez and G. Aronsman on 305, 15 seconds behind after pacing. Jan Hirt, good performance, 320. I would say Tiberi's the one who fell through a bit today. He lost 1:09 to G and 54 seconds to Ahrensman. That's like the biggest gap in the top 7, 8 riders on the road, apart from obviously Pogacar, but between the other guys.
And in addition to that, one of the guys that also lost a lot of time today was Alex Bonnet. He obviously was also at the side of the decathlon for O'Connor, but I think he rode his own race a little bit because, let's be honest about it, UAE dictated the race. It's not like decathlon put riders at the front starting to pace for O'Connor, so he rode his own race, ended up losing a significant amount of time, is now 16th in GC after this stage, so he's out of the question when it comes to top 10 completely, but still a valuable ride, a valiant, that's a nice word, a valiant ride by Alex Bonnet, and I think he should still be proud regardless of today, of his entire Giro so far, the fact that he's out of contract, looking forward to what that brings, but let's talk about the riders that actually mattered on today's stage, like Pogacar's victory here, super outstanding, very dominant victory. Does it change anything with how I perceive his level towards Tour de France? I don't know. I'd need to see the watts for that. Does that make sense? Because like, it doesn't shock me that he beats the rest by a significant margin here. But whether it was a very high performance watts-wise is something that I can only see when I see those estimations to then guess, okay, how many kilojoules happened before we got to the final climb, because UAE set their own pace. It wasn't a brutal tempo the entire day, which does that change affect the outcome of the final climb? What were the watts regardless of those kilojoules by Pogacar? What did you see?
If I had to guess, eye test 2 of the watts, which is always risky, but eye test, I reckon this will probably be his best climbing performance after a lot of kilojoules.
Yeah,
would be my guess.
But
then it's like it's accumulated over a longer stage, so I don't know. I have to really look at it. But I think he's. It's hard to say, as you said, but
I feel like he's definitely a little bit better.
I think so, yeah.
On high kilojoule stages than he was in the last 2 years.
I think he's better. But then, I mean, there's not much more to say. Yeah, he's looking very, very good for the Tour de France. Obviously, looks good here. But whether it's I have to compare it to say Catalunya, like how much better is it than, because in Catalunya he was already way better. Catalunya on the Queralt stage, the Berga stage, he did like crazy watts on the 2 climbs back to back, and it was a really, really hard stage. So. If he's improved even more, it's a scary prospect for his competitors at the Tour de France. That's for sure. And compared, it's hard to say because, like, even if he hadn't improved, like, he should be smacking Thomas and Martinez anyway in this Giro d'Italia, and that's what's happened because now he's 6:41 ahead of Thomas on GC, 6:56 ahead of Martinez, 7:43 ahead of O'Connor, who's a little bit further away from the podium now, 9:26 ahead of Tiberi. Ahrensman's now 19 seconds behind Tiberi for the white jersey. That'll be a big battle in week 3. Bardet moves up to 7th, ahead of Zana, who dropped a bit earlier. Rubio moves into 9th from 11th on 12:13, and he looks like he might be coming for Filippo Zana's 8th at some point. Jan moves from 13th to 10th. And Fortunato's moves down to 11th. He dropped. And I think that, unless the breakaways could play a big role with Stora, Fortunato, and co, but I think that a top 10 looks like the best riders, apart from maybe, even Zana was good today. So that top 10 kind of looks like the best guys.
Yeah, I think so as well. Again, you're right. Fortunato, Store, it depends on what they can achieve when it comes to going in the breakaway, but that will also lead to riders in P5 to P10 having their team pace after these riders if they're in the breakaway. So if Fortunato goes in the breakaway, we might see literally Quickstep, Movistar, Jayco starting to ride in the peloton behind them. So that's also an intriguing aspect. Let's be clear. If the Giro wasn't already over, it is over. Like 6:41, Pogacar is winning this Giro, bar any bad luck and crashes. So let's hope that does not happen to him, because with the performance he has put in, he deserves this victory at this point. Thomas, Martinez, very close to each other. I love that, but I also love that O'Connor is still close, because any bad day from all three of them could upset how the podium looks by the end of this race. But I also have the feeling that is kind of the order I expect them to come in at the end of this Giro. Thomas, Martinez, O'Connor. That's the feeling I have. Tiberi versus Arensman. Today, Arensman was better. But it was also a much harder stage. So it depends on how that turns out in the final week. But today's tendency, I don't know if that's a word, today's trend, would suggest that Arensman will pass Tiberi in the white jersey is in shot for Ineos Grenadiers. And that's the thing, like, well, we can talk about, okay, Thomas. Let's be clear. A good outcome doesn't mean that the tactics that were applied were the ideal or correct tactics. That's logical, right? But on the other hand, the outcome is definitely okay when it comes to Ineos after today's stage.
Yeah, there's no harm in losing to Pogacar. Pogacar was the prohibitive favourite going into the race, and they've won 2 stages, raced aggressively. Ganna and Narvaez have each won them. They could have the white jersey soon, the way Arensman looks. Yeah, I think, there's no shame in that. But there was a G interview, I think it was on Cycling Pro Net, said he didn't feel 100% today, so he had no confidence because he didn't feel great today. So when the attack came, he thought, I'll use the other guys, I'll follow them. After that, it became a cat and mouse game between us. So that kind of proves what we were saying, Benji, kind of like on Tignes. We let Pog go. Then I got through something. At the end, I felt okay. It was nice to finish together with Danny and take time on the rest. So
G's still good. Go is a weird thing to say now. He meant it differently than it sounds, probably.
Well, yeah, it's kind of what we said. I think he got to a minute and he's like, fuck it. Like, why am I going to ruin Timon's GC to put him on the front?
Yeah.
And then he gets flicked. I think that's sort of that thinking. And that's it's kind of true. That's the way it is. But yeah, I'm looking at Nick Schultz Strava now, Benji.
He rode well, by the way.
Yeah. He was for me, he was like the Zimmerman of today's stage. It's like, what are you doing there?
What
are you doing there in that GC group on Foscaglia?
But also, can we talk about the fact that Kovali is still 18th in GC in this race?
Really? After kind of being a domestique on a lot of stages.
Yeah. He's 27. He's not the most known rider, but top 20 in the Giro would be a fucking great result for a random Italian on Bardiani.
Yeah. I mean, Bardiani, I would say, and Polti they have been animators of this race. I think Bardiani and Polti have more than merited their wild card in this race. I'm just looking at the watts now. Tudor been, apart from Storer, Tudor been mid.
Yeah.
Like,
Storer has been impressive, but in sprint stages, it's so silly to me that they went all out for Dainese every time. Now, he's going to prove me wrong by winning that downhill sprint stage I said he would win in the coming week, but still, you know what I mean?
It's just not a great Giro for guys like Trentin.
Yeah.
Like, there's not that many versatile stages.
But he is... there's no underground tours for them, eh? So true. I don't mind him being here necessarily because he's very valuable for sprint train. He did try and breakaways, so I don't see that as the issue.
Just looking at the Mortarolo watts now, looks like they did it like 5 watts per kilo. That's pretty slow, to be honest.
Okay.
I would say. But
for them. Slow for them.
No, it's just decent, but it's
Langen
like
was riding. It's not a surprise, eh?
Before Foscaglia, 5,000 kilojoules. Jeez, I ain't seen that for a long time. I barely. So it's like super, super attritional stage. So yeah, crazy stage. And then, but yeah, Schultz was really good, and he still lost like 14 minutes. I think we've covered all the topics, Benji. The thing I'm most looking forward to now, as we look, there's the rest day in Livigno. We'll see maybe they're competing for who got given the lowest altitude hotel. God forbid you're up on the top floor because your recovery would be a bit stressed.
I do want to you're talking about the Livigno sleeping spot. You're right.
Yeah.
Because they're staying there for two nights, basically, which it's beneficial that it's 2 nights and not 1 night, I think. Right? Because
I think it makes it worse.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I thought through it as I'm going to sleep on altitude 1 night, so my recovery that night is going to be worse. But if I get 2 times that amount of recovery, it might be the same as one night on lower altitude.
Nah,
But that logic makes no
it'll
sense
just
then.
fuck you more being up there.
Oh, fuck.
It's also really high up there.
Okay. But also, about kilojoules, we just said 5,000 kilojoules before we get to the second last climb, FirstCycling, which is basically the last climb if you don't really count Motolinho. Like, how do you put that in perspective? Because, like, I haven't seen that in a while either, but I'm thinking through it, and, like, at what point do you become, like, at what point is it not that effective anymore when you take an energy gel that you spike up suddenly and you feel better? Like, at what point you're just on the edge?
I don't even know. All I remember is Bernal. I just would follow the Bernal strategy where he just constantly was putting a gel in his mouth. I remember there's like 700 meters to go in a Tour de l'Avenir stage. He started having a gel. I was like, what are you doing? Even as a U23. But yeah, I don't know, to be honest. The nutrition stuff is beyond me. Or like I'm flat out counting calories.
Because the fatigue resistance per rider is also different. So at what point would someone collapse? It depends on the stage. After 4,000, you can already have trouble.
It depends. Because like Poggy, he doesn't collapse in Liège or Flanders, right?
Yeah,
and they're 250k stages, so it just depends.
And it's also like if you use yesterday and the day before and the day before, if your tank goes more empty and more empty over the days, you don't recover fully every night, then you're gonna have less to spend on a stage like this, for example. So that's the effect of a Grand Tour versus a one-day race. But also when it comes to the actual resistance of riders, it's not just X amount of kilojoules over the entire stage. It's also what has happened in the last hour, for example, before we get to FirstCycling. And yes, Mortirolo was in there, but if it's written at 5 watts per kilo, it might not be as high as if you wrote it at 6 watts per kilo, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And when you look at like Pogacar on, you compare like the Mortirolo to what happened on the Tourmalet before Cauterets or on Galibier before Granon. It's like, it's different. But also, still, it's still super, super hard today. Even if we're saying, okay, it's Lang and whatever, but still, like 5 watts per kilo for 40 minutes is still not
slow.
It's not slow. And I'm assuming that's I'm just guessing Schultz weight anyway. But tomorrow, Livigno, they're having the rest day. On 6 days, 16, they start in Livigno and finish, was supposed to be the Stelvio stage, finish in Santa Cristina, Val Gardena, Montepano, 206 kilometers long. The first 2 climbs, they actually do the Foscagno. I think, I don't know what, maybe the side they came down on. And they're 4K, 6.5%, both up to 2,200 plus meters descent. Then the Umbrail Pass, 16K, 7%. Then a 100 kilometer valley, and then 7K, 7% climb, like a stepped climb to San Cristina in Gröden, up to 1,600 meters. The last 2Ks of this are like 12%, 12.5%. Really, really hard finish. I think, Benji, that Poggy will take his foot off the gas a little bit here. And I think he won the Queen stage. He's won 4 stages, 3 stages, 4 stages.
4 stages?
7-minute lead on GC. 120k valley after Stelvio or Umbrail Pass. I think they let the breakaway win on this stage.
Yeah, even with the Umbrail Pass or Stelvio, whatever climb it is, this is a breakaway stage for me. Like, there's a perfect opportunity for a large breakaway to form on the first climbs. Yes, maybe with the sleeping on altitude, somebody is a bit badly recovered and has a very bad day, but I can't predict who that will be. But if we look at the opportunity for that breakaway to form, the large valley in between, and the final climb, let's be honest about it, it's not that hard outside of the last 2 kilometers. I don't see any value for Pogacar to really have UAE control this stage. So for me, this is breakaway all day. And you have a pick already? Because I've completely forgotten who I was going to pick for this, but...
Ooh, you've put me on the spot there. I would have liked Quintana if it was a longer finish climb, but they're kind of 3 short climbs.
Not high altitude anymore, mate.
Yeah, it's also, up to 1,600 meters. It's not that rarefied air. I'm going to go with Nicola Conchi.
Okay. I'm going to go with... Actually, good pick. He looked good today.
I think they should also let VPP should go on the break for Asia Tour. He can win again.
God damn it. You should...
I didn't
You're
pick
not
him.
allowed to say 2 picks.
I picked
was
Conchi.
about to say VPP, but now I feel very attacked, so now I'm not going to pick VPP. And I'm going to pick someone else. Now I'm going to pick his teammate. Alex Bonin is going to be in the break right now that he's on 24 minutes.
Yeah, he can go on the break now. If he gets in the break and he has his legs the other day, he'll dust everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, and in GC, what do you expect? I think the thing I'm most looking forward to now is the white jersey, as I said, between Tiberi and Aarons, with 19 seconds separate them. Of course, there's Ken O'Connor. I don't really care about second versus third. To me, it's all the podium. But O'Connor is still within a minute of the podium with Martinez and 102 behind Thomas. But so there's still the podium and the white jersey in play.
Yeah.
Points jersey, Milan looks pretty wrapped up, over 100-point lead. KOM, I think Pogacar is going to win it by default, I'm afraid. He just took too many points today. So unless Geschke will have to take so many points in this week 3, it'll be tough for him.
I think no one in top 6 will change tomorrow. No, on the rest day, definitely
Can't change
not,
tomorrow.
But on stage 16, I don't... maybe on the day after, the possible on stage, we'll see change in GC, but I don't see it on this one. I think we get to the last 2 kilometers, and 2 kilometers steep can make differences, but
yeah,
I don't expect the differences to be huge. The only one that could change is Arensman and Tiberi, but I guess we'll see that. So I'm not looking forward to stage 17, to the Monte Grappa stage as well. So those are the ones. But like, how would you rate today's stage? Because let's be honest, I went into this expecting this to be either a stage where UAE pays after the break or doesn't pay after the breakaway. But from GC Group, it's kind of what I expected. Like, I expected people to ride for the podium. Like, and because of that, I'm not that underwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, you keep telling me, and I keep ignoring you. I'm like, no, they're gonna pace, they're gonna try this, and you're like, no, they won't, dude. And so maybe I keep setting myself up like that, but I think it's good for the Giro. The Poggy was here actually, and it's like, we may as well take stock of the Giro so far, Benji. Very different going into rest day 2 compared to the Giro last year. Giro last year, going into rest day 2, the GC was... Oh no, Amarell's in the pink jersey. Geraint Thomas was 2 seconds ahead of Roglic and 22 seconds ahead of Almeida. So it was on in terms of gaps. But I think the racing up until now has been much better.
Yeah, for sure.
And just because, and yes, like, what you want is close GC gaps. Well, not even that close. The Tour last year wasn't that close. It was like, but you want the guys taking swings at each other and for GC to be in play. Last year, the really tight gaps, absolutely nothing happened. I've much actually preferred these 2 weeks, even though Pog's dominated, even though Pog winning easily. If he wasn't here today, honestly, Ineos just control this stage, Benji, and there's a sprint in the last 500 meters on Mottolino.
Yeah, or Bahrain and Decathlon do something against them.
Yeah.
So I think that's also something that from those riders I do expect something if Pogacar's not here.
True, yeah.
But I will say, when it comes to, like, last year, Ineos rode passively if they were in the lead. When they were in the lead, in the end it backfired. Maybe they would have learned the lesson from then.
I was watching, someone just sent me a video of Delete trying to kill someone, Benji.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, Benji teaching that. I shouldn't say that.
Probably. But.
We're the sprint police. Sorry. Someone just sent it to me. I was like, I thought it had been a bad crash.
We are the sprint aviation police, but reality is...
I've retired.
Reality is, I'm judging the sport. I'm looking at a sprint. I see someone deviate. If it's dangerous, I don't like it. I want that rider to be relegated. Yeah. If I'm watching from the team perspective, the UCI isn't acting on most of them, so you might as well try to deviate a little and make your chances bigger. Because, like, on one end, it's ethically wrong to think that, but on the other end, that's what the UCI breeds into the sport with those decisions. Then again, with Merlier, they made the right decision. With Groenewegen, not.
And with Lawrence, a lot of the riders were complaining. It's like, I agree with you. If he's chopping guys, it isn't great. If you're looking to sign, that's
what you look for.
If you're looking to sign a young classics rider / lead out or sprinter, it's a tick. I'm afraid it's a tick on the checklist.
You mean Lawrence Piffy? I was no clue who you were talking about.
Leah Piffy.
Lawrence Naesen.
Axel Laurence. Larry Warbass.
Okay, no.
No, Larry never chop anybody. He's well liked. That's the sort of thing. Like, it's yeah. Okie dokie.
In other words, we're just hypocrites.
No, it's not. It's not being hypocrite. It's just like, that is what it is. If you're scouting a classics rider, it's like, when you say, are they going to be in position when we say before this critical moment, and where it's going to get narrow, it's going to get hectic, and they get there through better or worse. You're like, it's a tick.
Yep.
That's just life. In the Vuelta Burgos Femeninas, Demi Vollering cleaned up GC. She won today's stage. There was a Rampas in Humanas climb, and she just cleaned Brandon Music. I don't know if Brand was in the breakaway. Otherwise, that's a really good climbing performance from her. So she wins GC by over a minute in the 4-day stage race. Quatre Jours de Dunkirk, Sam Bennett wins another stage and also takes out the GC. So he must be pretty happy with his haul there. Four first places and 6 podium spots. And he nearly won the one with Vara van Heleve. And the thing that had me distracted was the sprint in Antwerp Port Epic, where Christophe won the sprint ahead of Emilien Gianier. And then Deli, I think, tried to get his hand to force Gianier out of the way through the middle of him and Christophe in the middle of the sprint. I would say so.
The rule is that you can't take your hands
off in a sprint. That's crazy, dude.
And then push someone to the side. It's not allowed. So it's simple. Yeah. It's relegation. I haven't even seen it. I don't even care. Relegation.
Yeah, luckily everyone stayed up. It actually opened the door for Oded Kogut, who's to come third again. Like, this guy's a little bit too good to be on Israel's academy team. Oh no, he's not. He's on he's on the pro team.
Yeah.
But they sent the Conti team to Antwerp Port Epic today. That's why I was confused.
Oh.
So his points
will score.
His points count. His points count for the big IPT team.
Yeah.
He comes third. He's quite a good rider. Deli fourth, Hagenez fifth, Dujardin sixth. This Janier character, don't know too much about him. He was on Vendée, the club team in 22. Bit of a late bloomer. He's 25. But this year, like 6th in Kerner, 5th in Montserrat, 9th in Brugge de Panne. Kerner and Brugge de Panne are real races. 5th in Femme Ardennes Classic and 2nd in Antwerp Port Epic. And listen, no one on Total's performing, and he is. So, and they changed. They changed bikes. Who are you talking about? Emilien Gianier.
Oh, Gianier, okay. Yeah, he's been good this year.
Fuck you. You're like the French people in Paris, Benji, when I order a croissant. You just did that to me. Comment?
You mean croissant?
Comment? Un croissant. Comment? I'm like, come on, man. You speak better English than me. Usually. So I get for trying. You just did it to me. I guess fair enough. How do you say it? Emilien Gianier.
Gianier.
Come on, I'm close.
Emilien Gianier.
Emilien Gianier. Vara van Heleve and Pieper Reindrank.
Pepijn, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a Dutch version of Lord of the Rings Pepijn. You
serious?
Have you watched Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, but I don't know the Dutch version of the Hobbits' names, man. I mean, what are you there watching with Dutch subtitles? You think Visma's like, actually, listen, buddy, you got to learn some Dutch. We've sent you Dutch dubbed copies of the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. If you sit through 10 hours of these, you'll speak Dutch.
Yeah. Pepijn en Marijn.
Okay, well.
Marijn!
What's
Mary.
Moraine is not in the Lord of the Rings.
Mary.
Wait, Moraine is the Hobbit's name in Dutch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for telling me that. I'm going to tell him. Second breakfast, Moraine. Is that what Mary said, or was that Samwise?
No,
it was Pippin. It was Pippin, no?
It was Pippin? I was Pippin, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Pippin er think.
Jesus. Okay, I think that's all the races I can possibly cover.
By the way, how's your velo games?
Oh, come on. I told you off there what it's like. I went the opposite strategy. I was like, listen, if you want to win, you got to not pick Poggy. It hasn't proved to be the correct decision, evidently. I also picked Outerbrooks, Koi. I mean, G to Berry was good. I got Stora. I might have had a PP in there. I had Narvaez.
We both have the wrong PP.
Do I have the wrong PP?
Yeah.
Okay. He can bring it back in week 3, but yeah, Outerbrooks and Koi abandoning, not exactly helping, and Pogacar being 7 minutes ahead in GC with 4 stages also not exactly helping. But anyway, what do I know?
Congrats.
Well, how's yours going? You're what, top 5%?
No, I'm coming for you. I'm not top 5%.
No, you're ahead of me.
No, I'm not ahead of you. I'm not ahead of you at all. I'm not ahead of you at all.
And you have Poggy.
I've got Pogacar. I've got Milan. I got
Milan.
Arensman, O'Connor, Storer, APP, Lengen, Novak, and Simon Carr, who abandoned.
See, yeah, the Novak Langen, I know you like the domestique assist.
I went for the domestique system strat.
No.
They gain 4 points every day. That Pogacar is in the top 3. It's not worth it. That's what I've learned.
I was going for you want MISC guys that come 5th that you never see on TV because you get loads of points for that. I thought APP was going to win some reduced sprints. It turns out there's no single reduced sprint in this whole Giro, so that kind of didn't work. What are you going to do? Okay. We also have a rest day tomorrow. You got anything to plug, Benji?
No, I have literally no videos in the making. But at the end of the Giro, I'll do my usual team reviews. So
do a team review.
I'll be shitting on some teams. I'll be praising some teams. That's going to be on my channel.
UAE, D-.
I doubt it, man. I doubt it.
10-minute win, 6 stages. And never under pressure a single minute of the whole race.
In the Giro preview, I said 8 minutes 51. It's still in the running.
Ooh, that's close. I said 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Nah, never lose faith, Benji. All right, that's all from us. Hope you enjoyed the pod, and we'll have a rest, and we'll see you with the Stage 16 recap on Tuesday. Until then, ciao.